It has been over a week since I got my iPhone 15 Pro Max, and this year it seems people have a lot of questions about this device. Questions like, how big of a change is the switch over to USB-C, and how good is that camera system on the 15 Pro Max, and does that 5x zoom really stand up to the hype? And is there a structural flaw with the iPhone 15 Pro Max's titanium design, and how hot is it getting in your stress tests? Well, I have answers to all of these questions, and also an answer to, Greg, when are you giving away your iPhone 15 Pro? Well, I will be giving away my iPhone 15 Pro next week, but you still have time to enter the giveaway. Just make sure you comment down below why you want an iPhone 15 Pro and use the hashtag Greg's Gadgets Giveaway. So I'll decide the winner by next week, and good luck to all of you. And one of the reasons why you might want to win that iPhone 15 Pro is because of the new USB-C port on the iPhone, which has broken part of the walled garden that Apple had, because it's never been a better time to try out some different accessories like the new Liberty 4 NC earbuds from Soundcore. First of all, these things look sleek and fun. I love the design and the emphasis on colors that Soundcore puts into their earbuds, unlike some other companies, and I am in love with this light blue color. Of course, these things also play great with the new iPhone 15. You can download the Soundcore app, and installation is very easy, and they auto-connect when you put them in your ear. They stop playing music when you take them out of your ear, and they feature convenient and easy-to-use touch controls. The battery life lasts ridiculously long on these things as well. It gets 10 hours on a single charge, and the charging case provides 50 hours of additional playback. And if somehow you're running low on battery, well, you can literally charge them right from the iPhone 15's USB-C port, and 10 minutes of charging will get you 4 hours of playback. So you're never going to be without battery with these things. And you won't want to take them out of your ears because the sound quality is amazing on these. The Soundcore Liberty 4s have high-res wireless certification and LDAC high-quality transmission for wireless high-resolution audio, and feature 11mm drivers for crisp and detailed sound. I tested out a bunch of tracks on these and came away impressed with how well balanced the sound is, and the customization is unparalleled here in the Soundcore app with so many different EQ settings, so you can really fine-tune the listening experience for your own ears. They sound great anywhere too, because the Liberty 4 NCs are equipped with great adaptive noise cancellation that fine-tunes itself to its specific environment anytime you put on the earbuds. So I wore these in the coffee shop and at the gym, and in both cases, the noise cancellation was great at blocking out ambient noise like people talking or the gym speaker blasting music. And these things are a steal. The sound quality and feature set is insane for $99. Really a great valued pair of earbuds. So to get your own pair, check out the link in the description, and thank you to Soundcore for sponsoring this video. Alright, so the iPhone 15 Pro Max has fixed some of my biggest complaints with the iPhone, and that all starts with the new titanium design. For years, I have been saying that modern iPhone designs were a little too heavy, but the titanium reduces that weight on the 15 Pro Max by 19 grams, which may not sound like a lot, but the weight reduction was immediately noticeable to me as soon as I picked up my iPhone 15 Pro Max. And what was also noticeable to me was how Apple slightly rounded the sides of the phone to make it much more comfortable in your hand. This feeling, combined with the more grippy matte titanium finish and the soft glass matte back, make it one of the most comfortable iPhones in recent memory. Now, the titanium sides are also much better at not attracting as many fingerprints, at least on this natural titanium model. They still get fingerprinty, but definitely not as much as my stainless steel iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now, there's no new display technology in the iPhone 15 Pro this year, which is kind of a departure from past iPhones where it seemed like the display was getting an upgrade every single year, whether that was the brightness of the display, the quality of the OLED panel, or the refresh rate. The only difference this year between the 15 Pro's display and the old 14 Pro is that Apple reduced the bezels around the display, which makes this Apple's most borderless phone yet, and it is a pretty striking design when you take in all of the nice refinements. However, there is one flaw with this new titanium design, and I'm not alone in discovering this, but my iPhone model, if you rub your finger along the edges, you can slightly feel the raised titanium edge under your finger on the bottom. Now, I'm not sure if this is a defect or a design quirk, but I think it's the latter, because there must just be some additional tolerance here when Apple is making the iPhone 15 Pro, because maybe the glass back doesn't have to be completely flush against the titanium rails, and I think that has to do with the iPhone design being more repairable, and I think maybe it's not as tightly bonded to the frame to make it more repairable, to make it easier to get into the back of the phone. That's just my theory, and I know I'm being a little nitpicky here, but honestly, the design is so perfect at this point, I have to find small little improvements where I think Apple could improve upon, and that would be one of them. I would like that to be more flush with the design, like the older iPhones. It's just something I notice. Now, the other big design change that's noticeable this year is Apple's new action button, which replaces the mute switch, which has been with us since the original iPhone. Of course, by now, you probably know the action button can be changed in settings to access quick shortcuts like muting your phone, activating a voice memo, or launching the camera. And it can pretty much do anything, right? If you can use Apple shortcuts, you can map it to a bunch of cool things. People online have been mapping it to all sorts of things. It's really cool. The only problem is, I forget it's there. Every time I go to use the action button, I think it's the mute switch. I instinctively go to flick that little mute switch and I'm like, oh wait, nothing's working. Oh, that's right, it's a button. Now, I think this is because of muscle memory, right? Like, I've only had this phone for a little over a week, and for some reason, my brain is still not used to the fact that this is an action button. It can't comprehend it, right? Like, the iPhone design had that mute switch since the beginning, and that's like over 15 years of iPhone design. I think it's 16 years at this point. So for my muscle memory to wipe that out in just a week of use is probably impossible, but I still haven't gotten used to it yet. So I've been trying to map it to the camera to get quick access to camera controls, but I gotta be honest, I've been messing up so many times where I'm like, oh, I wanna take a picture, and for some reason my brain just goes like that, and it's like, oh, I didn't activate anything. That's right, you gotta press and hold. So I'm hoping over time I learn how to use it better, but right now I'm just struggling, okay? Now, the other big design change is something we already touched on during the sponsor read, and that's USB-C. So yes, obviously I can now charge my iPhone with the same cable as my MacBook or my iPad, and now pretty much every mobile device that uses USB-C. But that's not where the upgrade really stands out to me. The main upgrade for USB-C was just how much it expanded what you can connect your iPhone to, and the results to me were kind of shocking. So I've tested so much with the USB-C port, and you can hook up adapters, SD cards, external SSDs, gaming controllers, charge other devices with it, and you can even hook the iPhone up to Apple Studio Display to get external video support for watching YouTube or even playing mobile games on your iPhone, all thanks to that USB-C port. Like, it's kind of weird, but Apple can kind of list the Studio Display as an iPhone accessory. Bizarre. Furthermore, the real-world benefits of this USB-C port come with faster data transfer rates on the Pro models, which is 20 times faster than the old Lightning port, or still 20 times faster than the normal iPhone 15, which still just has 2.0 speeds on its USB-C port. And it's such a life improvement. If I plug this into my Mac, and then if I go into like Final Cut, I can just import the videos I shot directly into Final Cut, or if I could just offload them into my desktop or whatever, right? And the file speed transfer is just so much faster. I love this new workflow I have with the 15 Pro. I know Android people are probably laughing, but hey, Apple had Lightning for a while. This is their first USB-C iPhone. It's a big change for my content production workflow. I also love that you can just plug in an external SSD drive or something like an SD card directly into the USB-C port, start shooting video with it, and then have it save right to that external drive. Or if you're in the field and maybe you want to offload footage from your iPhone, you can plug in a USB-C port, go into the Files app, and again, just offload everything you shot right into the external SSD. Speaking of that camera system, this is also something that Apple kind of fixed for me, and it surprised me because I didn't even know my iPhone 14 Pro Max needed this fix. And because I really like what Apple did here with their 48 megapixel sensor, because unlike last year where Apple took that big 48 megapixel sensor and basically compressed that down to a 12 megapixel photo when using the normal photo mode, well, they have now doubled that resolution to 24 megapixels. Then they've also tweaked the computational photography and HDR and added in smart features like automatic portrait mode to make the default photo taking experience even better and more foolproof. The regular photo mode just does such a good job at combining now higher resolution and computational photography, and you can get some really nice looking shots without having to do much guesswork. So you get nice shots in really mostly any lighting condition, and because you have double the resolution to work with, you can also see more detail in each shot, which means you can zoom in and crop these photos pretty far and still retain a lot of detail on the main camera sensor. And there's also a cool trick here where Apple is now utilizing that camera sensor to give you additional focal lengths on the main camera. And as long as you're in that 1x to 1.9x zoom range, you're going to get a 24 megapixel photo with default settings. Of course, if you tap that 1x, you can change to 28 millimeters and 35 millimeters, which is really helpful when you're trying to get a certain look for your photos. And Apple gives you the same amount of control as they did last year. And they actually give you more control now because they have a new HEIF Max mode, which lets you capture the full 48 megapixel sensor but without the massive file sizes that Apple's Pro RAW mode had. So you can get like a 48 megapixel photo in about a 5 megabyte file size. And then if you want that full 48 megapixel readout, without compression with Apple's Pro RAW mode and you want to kind of like tweak and edit those photos later, well, you still have that available as well. However, unlike last year where I used these features quite often on my 14 Pro Max, I really haven't felt the need to on the iPhone 15 Pro. And I kind of don't want to. I think the default smartphone processing looks great without the need to really go in and edit photos. And the main camera really takes good shots in a lot of conditions. And even though I may make some edits here and there, they still hold up pretty well. Of course, you still have the extended 2x crop zoom from last year, which still looks good, and it has to fill the gap now that the 3x zoom has been removed from the Pro Max, but that is something I asked for. I thought the, 2x software mode was good enough and the 3x was kind of redundant, and Apple kind of listened to that, and in place of that, there's a new 5x lens that has really impressed me with some of the shots that I have been able to get on my iPhone. Now, yes, one of the main reasons for using the 5x lens on the 15 Pro Max is that you can take photos from farther away. So if there's a building you're trying to get a photo of that's pretty high up, or if there's an animal in the distance, yeah, that 120 millimeter focal length is going to help for that. But there's other photo scenarios that aren't necessarily all about zooming into a faraway subject where that 5x focal length helps out. So if you want to take a portrait mode with added depth and character, the 5x lens can really help you nail a different look than you could get with the main camera lens. I've really enjoyed a lot of the shots I've been getting with this 5x lens. I like the farther reach on it. It feels like a different camera system this year. My only complaint with the 5x lens is that you do need good lighting for the photos to look crisp, even with that faster f2.8 aperture. If you don't have like the best lighting conditions, sometimes those photos can fall apart pretty easily. And then if it's like really dark outside, Apple won't even engage that 5x telephoto lens. It'll actually just digitally zoom in on the 1x lens. You can actually scroll down on your photos to check this in settings. And there's been, some scenarios where I've been testing this at night and I did like a really far zoom in, even like digitally zoom past the 5x, and it still used the 1x lens and it looks downright awful. So yeah, the 5x lens is good, but again, you do need better lighting conditions to really make it work. Whereas with the, default 1x lens, you can use that in way more lighting conditions and the photos hold up so much better. One of the things that surprised me about this 5x lens though, was that I enjoyed it more for video than I did for photos, because it is a great focal length for composing shots when you want to be farther away. And Apple has some really great stabilization and tracking into that 5x lens that makes holding the shot steady a lot easier than I thought it would be. I was able to pull off some really nice video shots that I would never have been able to pull off on the previous iPhones, and it really made me appreciate the jump up in focal length this year. And video in general on the iPhone 15 Pro camera system has just been phenomenal. The 15 Pro continues the lead Apple already had compared to every other smartphone this year, and even with default settings, videos just look so good without me having to fuss with any controls. However, if I do want to fuss a bit and get even more detail and even more control over my video, Apple has added ProRes log recording to the 15 Pro Max this year and the 15 Pro. For a normal user, you may not want to mess with this setting, but if you want even more control with how your iPhone video looks, log footage allows you to grade that footage for a specific look. Now, you're going to have to use a video editor, and it does require post-processing because straight out of the camera, the footage looks very flat and very dull, basically looks gray. However, because of that, it does allow the video editor to do the work of grading this footage rather than having it more baked into the look. For me though, this just means I have the highest quality footage I have ever been able to get out of a smartphone. I actually don't even think it looks like smartphone footage at this point. I could be easily fooled into thinking someone shot this on a dedicated camera, and based on some of the footage I've seen more talented people shoot, I was fooled. Like, that footage looks absolutely phenomenal. There is one disadvantage to shooting like with this log profile though, and it's a reason I've only been dabbling with it for now, and that's because the file sizes are huge. Even on my 512 gigabyte iPhone 15 Pro Max, I only have enough storage left over to get about 40 minutes of footage using this mode. Like I mentioned before, because of the USB-C port, you can hook up an external SSD and record directly onto the drive, which I feel like is going to be a necessity for most people with lower iPhone Pro storage tiers if they want to take advantage of this feature. And you might be watching this thinking all the improvements I mentioned are small or, little tweaks here and there, but Last year I really felt like Apple made a pro camera with that 48 megapixel sensor, but I quickly realized I was facing a lot of limitations because of the Lightning port with these slow data transfer rates. And now that the iPhone 15 Pro has USB-C and it does have additional photo and video features that are really helpful, I feel like the iPhone 15 Pro feels fixed in that way. I feel like it's an iPhone that really is truly finally worthy of that pro name. And I'm excited to keep using it for my own videos and creative outlets. And I am just so excited to use this as a professional tool. All right, I should also comment real quick on the A17 Pro chip. And I just want to say that performance for me has been great and smooth on this phone, but that's really no surprise. iPhone performance has been pretty good for a while, right? But it is still kind of crazy for me to see benchmark scores hitting what the M1 chip did, all in this little smartphone. And honestly, I'm still kind of waiting to see what the full promise of the A17 Pro chip brings over, because Apple promised like AAA games running on the iPhone 15 Pro. Those aren't out yet as I'm making this video. I did do like a gaming video here if you want to check out even more of my gaming experience with the A17 Pro chip. But yeah, basically this thing ran everything I threw at it perfectly fine, and performance is very fast and very snappy. And I know your big question for me is, Greg, you say you've been doing some processor intensive tasks. You say you've been testing the phone out, taking lots of videos and photos. You've been playing a lot of games on it. Greg, has your phone been overheating? Is the iPhone 15 Pro Max, titanium design causing it to overheat? No, not for me. My phone's been running perfectly fine, not getting hot. But I guess I wouldn't be doing this video justice if I didn't at least address some of the more controversial takes on the iPhone 15 Pro, namely the issue of some users facing overheating problems on their 15 Pro. And Apple has addressed this issue. They have issued a software update which supposedly fixes this overheating problem, and apparently apps like Instagram and Uber, which were kind of going rogue and using the CPU resources, also issued updates which supposedly fix this. But again, I've never faced this issue, even when apparently this was a bug. And yeah, my 15 Pro Max has been completely fine thermally. And what I will say, though, is that this update did seem to improve my battery life, because I was having some battery life issues. I disabled Instagram for the background app refresh too, and after this update, my battery life on the 15 Pro Max has been pretty solid. I'm getting maybe 7.5 to 8 hours of screen on time, maybe like 20% of the battery life remaining at the end of the day. Like, it is a nice, noticeable boost in battery life, and I wanted to kind of bash the battery life on this device, but after making that change, I kind of can't. Like, it seems to be lasting long. It seems to be lasting what I expected for a Pro Max model. And that was kind of like my last hangup with the 15 Pro Max. If these software updates or me just turning off background app refresh on Instagram really does improve the battery life that much, then this iPhone 15 Pro Max has basically fixed every issue I had with my 14 Pro Max, and it may end up being the perfect smartphone. Honestly, I was not expecting this for a year-over-year upgrade for my iPhone 15 Pro Max, but really, the refinement this year is tremendous. This is a beautiful smartphone, and it really does get rid of a lot of the pain points I had with my iPhone 14 Pro Max. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think about the iPhone 15 Pro Max? Do you think that it really is that much of a refinement over last year's phone? And don't forget to give me a like if this video helped you out, and make sure to sub because you want to see more of my content. And also, let's be honest, if you sub, you have a chance of winning that iPhone 15 Pro. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Zuckerberg, I thought you were finally turning to the good side. I thought you were finally making the switch. But after this battery drain from Instagram, I don't know, Zuck. I don't know. It's a confusing world out there, folks.